You're watching LMCC, your community TV.
Hello and welcome to Talking Points. I'm Kay Erickson with the League of Women Voters of South Tonka, and today we're talking about teens and homelessness. We're filming this program from Hope House in Chanhassen. It's the only shelter for homeless teens west of 494. Peg DuBord, president of the League of Women Voters of South Tonka, is with me today, and together we're going to be talking with two people who made this shelter a reality. Pam Langseth is from Open Hands Foundation, and Richard Coffey is with 180 Degrees. It's the organization that runs the day-to-day operations of the shelter. This is the third in a series of programs focusing on teens in the suburbs. We're trying to bring attention to the issues teens are facing and to also compile a list of resources for anybody looking for information or services. Welcome, Peg, and welcome, Pam.
Thanks for having me here today. I'm excited to talk to you about the Open Hands Foundation and Hope House. My background is in business and doing nonprofit work as well as community work. And I was able to join the Open Hands Foundation about 7 years ago now. And at that time, we were trying to figure out what the unmet needs were in our community that we might consider for looking at. So we conducted some research, met with a lot of different leaders in our community, law enforcement leaders, school leaders, nonprofit leaders, medical leaders, all different people, to find out what unmet needs were there. And in that conversation with those people, we uncovered the fact that there were 3 to 4 kids per high school that were without a place to sleep at night. And we thought we need to figure out how we would address that and figure out what to do based upon that.
So you decided to have a teen shelter. So how did you sort of go about doing that, and and then what's the relationship back to the church?
You know, it's a great question. So the Open Hands Foundation was founded by Westwood Community Church in 2003 as an independent 501c3 organization. So the goal was that we would partner with the community to meet unmet needs of vulnerable people. So when we did this research, we uncovered the fact that there were teens that were without shelter and had issues, and we had to understand what services did they need, what specifically was required. We knew that there were long-term, not a lot, but there were long-term solutions for them, but this emergency window when they first leave their home and they have nowhere to go and no support was what we wanted to address. So we talked to organizations that are doing that work. We talked to law enforcement and school people to find out what do they know these kids need. And we uncovered 2 things. First of all, there's an emergency piece that they need, which is they need a place to sleep, they need food, they need a roof over the head, and they need caring people that can help them navigate what's going on. And then their primary needs, which are the things that help them solve or create solutions to address the things that happen in their life that cause them to be out of their home anyway. So things like case management, social work, connections to resources in the community that can help them. And the goal is that this is that transition point to help them when they're in the midst of a crisis to the point that they have those resources that they can really work and get their lives back on track.
So once you did your research and you kind of figured out that you were going to do a shelter, how did you go about finding a service provider that could partner with you in order to, carry out the needs of the foundation?
Well, through our research, we had met an individual whose name is Dan Farr. And at that time, Dan was the executive director of the Bridge for Youth in South Minneapolis, which happens to be the closest shelter to this community. It's at, I think, 22nd and Emerson. And in our conversations with Dan, we talked about what would we need to do, what are the things we'd have to work through with the state, with the health department, with the county, with the cities, what would the services offered, and we uncovered that it would take us probably 3 to 4 years if we did it ourselves. And we quickly asked him, would you ever do it with us? And Dan said, yeah, they would. And so there was a partnership struck that the Open Hands Foundation could be the piece that would help them accelerate their development work, meaning we could help them bring them to contracts with the counties because we knew some of the players. We could help bring the health department in the city here because we knew the mayor and he could help us with that. Different things that we could navigate more quickly than them, as well as we made a commitment to figure out how to create the funding streams that would create the shelter and help it be sustainable. We worked together, we formed a contract in March of 2015, and in November 1st of 2015 we opened for Care for Kids.
Oh, wow.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the statistics for youth and their need for a shelter?
Sure. So like I said, we know that there are about 3 to 4 kids per night per high school that are really in this pickle. They probably have been bouncing around from friend's home to friend's home, couch hopping as we say, but they've kind of lost their ability to stay in their friends' houses, and so they're really without a place to stay. When they get to Hope House, what we found is they have tried to come here or have called here 3, 4, 5, 6 times, because kids in the south suburbs exhibit this maybe a little bit differently than they do in the city. They don't want to be seen. They completely want to fit in. They want to stay in their community. They want to go to high school, or they're going to high school. And so it's hard to know that they're in this predicament. And it's very hard for them to ask for help, because if they do, that means somebody knows that they're in this predicament. Kids that come to the shelter, what we find is 100% of them have conflict within their families that is driving the fact that they're out of their home. 80% of the time mental illness drives that. It might not be the child or the teen that has mental illness. It might be mom who suffers from mental illness, or dad who does, or maybe it's a sibling. But what it's causing is anxiety and strife within the family system that causes the kid to leave. Kids that are a part of this also face a couple of things. A third of them have been abused, either sexually or physically, or are neglected. They tend to self-medicate because that has gone on, so we find that about 22% are consuming drugs or alcohol to deal with the situations in their lives. There's just a lot of things in their lives that makes it difficult for them to be in their homes.
So are there ways that the community can support Hope House, and what might those be?
That's a great question. First thing we'd always say is we need prayer for this place and for the staff that work here. This is a very hard job, because these kids are really struggling and they're in a bad place. So it's not an easy job to have. We look for the kids to do well. We pray for them as well. But we look for 2 things. Key is funding. As I said, we're trying to create sustainable funding for this space. It costs $500,000 a year to run this facility. And that's because we have 2 staff members on call or here 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So there's a lot of staffing that goes on to meet with the needs of these kids. So people can make donations, and that's wonderful. People can share the information that Hope House exists. If you know somebody that needs help, you can call 612-900-2077 and reach somebody who can help you. You can encourage a kid to come. You can encourage a family that might be in the midst of a challenge to maybe suggest that this might be a good resource for help for their family and their kids. And then we need things that, kids are here, they want to do the normal things. So to be able to take a kid to a movie, or to help them go see the Arboretum, or maybe go work out somewhere, and gift cards or passes to those places are very, very helpful for the shelter.
Great.
If somebody would like to give, is there a list of a wish list on your website that they could take a look at?
There is.
Oh, good.
There is, and they can visit www.openhandsfoundation.com. And that needs list is always posted there.
Wonderful. This is a partnership with the Open Hands Foundation, the church. What's the church's part of this?
Yeah, that's good. Hope House is 3 partnerships that are coming together to do this. Westwood Community Church owns this property and this house, and they have provided the house for $1 a year, leasing it to our service partner, 180 Degrees. And the service partner are the people that are the professionals in knowing how to work with the teens. They know what to do. They have shelters in different places around the state, including one called Brittany's Place, which is for sex-trafficked girls, teenage girls. So they've got lots of expertise in working with teens in different ways. And then the Open Hands Foundation, our job is really to make sure we pave the way, I guess, for lack of a better word. And we're working to create sustainability and long-term funding to keep this shelter in our community as long as we need it.
So can you tell us a little bit about successes that the students have had or the teens have had?
Yeah, I can. There's a couple stories. We had a girl this summer who came in who was just really in huge conflict with her family and stayed here a total of 8 nights, so not a very long time. But during that time, as she was admitted to the shelter, they uncovered the fact that the strife was between her and her mom, and they couldn't communicate. So they brought the mom in. Mom was willing to come in and meet with the staff as well as meet with her daughter and the staff. And through that process, they were able to create a contract of what were they going to agree to, what kind of behaviors were there going to be expectations on both sides, and if those behaviors didn't happen, what were the consequences on that behavior. So as I said, she stayed here 8 nights. She went back home, and she is still back home. Our case manager here remains in contact with kids as long as they're willing to be in contact with her, and we know that she's successfully staying at home right now. So that contract, I guess, is working very well.
That follow along is really important too. So
Critical.
Yeah.
Critical. You know, sometimes kids don't want to be kept in contact with, but most of them do. One of our best success stories is one who actually was the second young man that stayed in the shelter, and he was here when he was 16 years old. And stayed here for a short time, not a long time at that point. But the staff has kept in contact with him throughout time, and they've helped him in many, many ways. What we know about him right now is he's living in Mankato, I believe. He's got 2 jobs, he's rented his first apartment, and he successfully navigated admittance to college, and he's going to start college in January at Minnesota State University. So he's making it. He's really turning his life around, and the staff have been really, really supportive every step of the way for him.
So he can call back and ask questions, and they'll be able to help him even though he's not in the shelter anymore.
That's exactly right.
Wonderful.
That's exactly right. We have another young gal came here this summer and was in the midst of a family where just was not supported at all. And when she got to the shelter, one of the things that happens with every teen who comes is they have a medical evaluation. So a nurse or a physician come in within 24 hours of arrival and do an evaluation to understand if there are any needs for medications, any medications they currently need, any treatment that's required. And in that process, they found out that she had 1 abscessed tooth and 18 severely, I guess, cavity-laden teeth. And so made a connection to a dentist and were able to get her treated. So, I mean, obviously, when you have that in your mouth, it's pretty hard to focus on a lot of things. So,
yeah, absolutely.
These, you know, the connections are really what's important here. It's giving teens strategies and connections and relationships that help them really move forward in their life from just places that are really tough.
That's great.
And it's wonderful that it's out here in the western suburbs, because for kids to go from here to something downtown, it's very difficult for them to go back and forth to school, and so it keeps their lives much more intact if it's here.
No, that's exactly right. It's, you know, we sit at the corner of 41 and 5 on the northwest corner of that intersection, and while it isn't served by the bus or that kind of thing, kids have an amazing way of finding this place.
That's good.
And, you know, teachers bring them, parents bring them, law enforcement bring them, they come here, they walk here. But it is a needed service, and otherwise they would be all the way down at 22nd and Emerson, and kids want to stay in their community. They want to be where their friends and their activities and their work and all the things that they know and love are. So we're really grateful for the support the community's given so that we're able to have this present in our community.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Pam, for being here today. It's now time for a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Richard Coffey from 180 Degrees, and at the end of that conversation, we'll be taking a video tour of the shelter.
Check out LMCC on Facebook. Be sure to like and friend us so you can keep up with all the happenings or to watch one of your favorite videos.
Welcome back to Talking Points. I'm Kay Erickson with the League of Women Voters of South Tonka. And in this segment of the program, Peg DuBord, president of the South Tonka League, and I will be talking with Richard Coffey, who's with 180 Degrees. It's the organization that runs the day-to-day operations of the shelter. Welcome, Richard. Thank you so much for being here today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about 180 Degrees?
For sure. Thank you for having me. I am the program director for 180 Degrees, and 180 Degrees consists of a lot of different programs. We were started back in 1972, and our first program was a halfway house for individuals coming in and out of prison. And since then, we have created a section that mostly focuses on youth. Today, our only adult facility is still the halfway house that we originally started. But today, most of our focus are on youth programs. We have 2 group homes, one in St. Cloud and one in Rochester, Minnesota. We have 2 shelters, one being here at Hope House, and the other one we have an SEY shelter, Sexually Exploited Youth Shelter in St. Paul, Minnesota. And along with those programs, we also have other youth programs that focuses on, we have a program called ACE, which is All Children Excel, and it's a Ramsey County program, and it focuses on kids between ages 5 and 10 that have committed an adult-like offense, and we bring those kids in our program to try to help them kind of turn their lives around and not create another offense. We have programs where we go into the school to help kids with their education as far as finding a job, resume building, filling out applications, how to dress, how to talk in the resume process. So we do a lot of different things. We have a program called SAFE that we focus on domestic abuse with women and try to help them out of their situation so they can get to their next level of living and find a safe environment to live in. So we're involved with a lot of things, and it's an awesome company. Very, very rewarding to work there.
What are the ages of the kids that are served here at Hope House?
Yes, Hope House is an amazing place. We serve kids from 14 to 19. Okay. And depending on their situation, Hope House is an emergency shelter. We try to get kids processed in and out within 21 days, but kids can stay up to 90 days here. So while they are here with us, the case manager and the employees here work with the individual to try to help them find their next level of living, maybe a more permanent place to live. Hopefully we can reconnect those individuals back with their families. Sometimes that's not an option. So then it's our job to help find the individual to go to maybe a group home or some type of transitional living.
So what kinds of, do you ever have to turn children away here?
We try not to turn kids away, although we're not the answer for everything in every situation.
Right.
So we do turn kids away sometime. You know, if a kid has a history of violence, and we have some history on that individual, we're probably not a good fit for that kid. Kids that have a history of and currently using drugs, we're probably not a good fit for that kid. So unfortunately, we don't fit everybody. But when we do get a call and the kid don't fit our program, we try to work with that caseworker or case manager to try to give them some other options on where they might go and fit in.
Well, that's really great, because I know not every door is the right door.
Right.
So finding the right door is
For
really
sure.
important.
It's very important.
Tell me a little bit about the program and the kinds of things that you do once the youth come here.
For sure. So within 24 hours, we try to make sure we either, once our kid get here, we try to make sure that they either have a physical or that they're scheduled to have a physical. It's really important for us to get them seen by a nurse or a doctor just to make sure that they're healthy and they're not suffering from any things that might come up while they're staying here. And a lot of kids come with medication these days, so we want to make sure that we're connecting right away with their social worker or case managers to understand what their med situation is, and because that's a really big deal, especially in today's environment, in today's society. It just seems kids are more and more on medication for different reasons, and we want to make sure that we continue that and make sure it's getting distributed properly to the kid. We give them some time to settle in, to get used to the house, used to the other kids that are in the house, get used to the staff. And then depending on the age of the kid, you know, we do serve 18 and 19-year-olds, which are considered adults in our great country. So we work with those a little differently than we work with the 14 and the 15-year-olds. For our adults that come here, the 18 and 19-year-olds, we see where they are with their school, if they have graduated. If not, we try to get them associated with some type of school or some type of GED program. And then we work with them to help try to find a job. We can help them find some stable income. Usually, we can help them find some stable housing. And if an individual can create those two things in their life, it can provide some stability. And then for the younger kids, our first goal with our younger kids is to really try to get them reconnected back with their family. That's the first goal. Now, in situations where that's not an option, then we have to look at other avenues. Because again, at the end of the day, unfortunately, we are an emergency shelter, and we can't keep individuals here past 90 days.
What are the things that you would do with the family? You know, how would you work with the family? And you know, family reunification is, you know, the goal.
Very important.
Talk about, you know, therapeutically and
yes,
programmatically.
we have our case manager. We have our case manager reach out to the family or the guardian that's on the paperwork of the client and try to assess first the relationship with the family and our client. Sometimes the relationships are there and they're intact, and sometimes the relationships they're not there. Sometimes the family don't want the individual back. So we set up meetings. You know, if both sides are willing, we'll set up a lunch where the kid can go and meet with the guardian, and we start off very small to try to work those relationships back into play, and we get as much information as we can from the guardian and what their side of the story is, and then of course the client being an hour in the home here, we get information from them as well, and then we try to as best as we can try to formulate a plan to work the client or the kid back into the home of the guardian. We try to understand that everyone comes here, they come with some type of a trauma. Mm-hmm. You know, they've been homeless, they're embarrassed, they're hungry, they haven't had a safe place to live. You know, their friends know they're homeless, so it's just an embarrassing thing. And we try to help. We try to start by building up that self-esteem and letting them know that there's no one judging you here. Everybody here is in the same situation as you are. So let's just come in and try to create a plan. Let's put a case plan together so that we can try to get you to your next level of living.
So do you use trauma-informed care techniques? And
we use trauma-informed care. We are constantly training here with our staff. We actually have some training coming up, some de-escalation training coming up, because these kids, they're really good at pushing your buttons and getting you to take things personal. So I think it's really important that the staff goes through training ongoing to keep you fresh and to give you some new tools to work with in your toolbox.
Is there any difference between the kids that you see in the city versus the kids that are out here in the suburb?
No difference.
Everybody has this perception that the city kids are different than the suburb kids, and it's like...
There's no different. I think there's a perception that homelessness is not a problem in the suburbs, but it just looks different. When you're in the cities, you can see the kids walking on the street, or you can see them sleeping on the train, or you can see them sleeping on the bench, or gathering with a blanket. You can see that. In the suburbs, it's a little more hidden. They may be bouncing from couch to couch with a friend's house. They may be sleeping in a car. They may be sneaking in a school, sleeping in the school. There's an example of a kid sleeping in the school for almost the entire year in one of the suburban schools, and no one found out about it until the end of the year. He was sleeping there the entire year. So it just shows up differently, and it's more visible in the cities, but in the suburbs, it's just more hidden.
How many teens are there here in a given night?
So we have 6 beds.
Okay.
We are full the majority of the time, and usually when we're not full, it's because 2 or 3 kids may have just processed out. Our main focus is Carver County. We have outreach support here in Carver County. We have an outreach employee that focuses on Carver County, working in the schools, building relationships with the principals, the teachers, the coaches. If you go to a basketball game and you see a kid standing in the corridor at the end of the game and there's no one picking them up, it might be a reason that no one's picking them up, and that kid's going to stand in that corridor and pretend that he has a ride or she has a ride because they're embarrassed. But that kid may be in the corridor an hour later when everybody else has gone home, and he or she's just trying to stay warm as long as possible before they get to their car that has a cold back seat and they can't run the heater all night in the car. And I tell people all the time, if you see a kid, stop and talk. If you think a kid is in a situation, if it crosses your mind, stop and say, "Hi, are you okay?"
This is a little bit of a change of subject,
Yes.
but the league deals with a lot of policy issues.
For sure.
Are there things, policy changes that would help your work be more effective, that would make it easier? Are there zoning changes? I mean, I don't know exactly what those might look like.
I don't think the changing the zones will make a difference. I think from a policy perspective, I just think the more we can, as a state, the more we can give from a financial perspective. I mean, volunteering is great. Having people give back is great. It's important and it's needed. It takes funds to run a place like this. And there need to be more spaces. There need to be more spaces. At any given time, in Minnesota, there's 800 to 900 kids that are homeless every night that don't make it to a place of safety. And when a kid is on the street, within 24 hours, when a female is on the street, within 24 hours, they have been approached about having sex with an adult that's older than them. Within 24 hours. Doesn't take a long time. So providing more opportunities for those individuals to find shelter is so super important to our state.
I'm assuming that that you have some relationship with the state, and there's some fees that you get.
We do, yes.
Program costs that are
so
generated from state contracts.
Yes, so we're funded a couple different ways. We're blessed to have a partner like Open Hands and Westwood Church. It's just an absolute blessing to have them. We also are funded through per diems from the counties. We get some per diem from the counties, although that's very limited. And then we also have a federal grant that's called Basic Center. And the Basic Center grant focuses on kids from 14 until they're 18. They don't focus on kids from 18 to 19. A place like this definitely takes multiple layers of support to stay operational and to be run the correct way.
So tell us a little bit about, like the successes that you've had with
yes,
kids,
for
and
sure,
how
for sure.
Let us know about how cool those are.
It's just amazing.
Makes it the work worth it, right?
It makes it so worth it. I can go on and on about stories. There was a kid that was in one of our work programs, and he was actually working. There were 3 of them, and they were actually working in our corporate office, our administrative office, and in this work program we have here. And they were. I remember I was on the phone one day, and they was running up and down the hallway, and they was yelling and screaming. And I came out of the office. I was like, "Hey, this is a work environment. You cannot." And I got on them pretty hard. I pointed my finger at them, and they were sitting in the chair, and they listened. And then, an hour later, someone knocked on my door, and it's one of the kids. And I get a little emotional about this, but I had a picture of my 3 kids on the wall. He came in and he said to me, and he was a 16-year-old kid, and I know he wanted something from me, but he didn't know how to ask. And he saw the pictures of my kids on the wall, and he said, "Are those your kids?" And that was his opening. And I said, "Yeah, they are my kids." I said, "But I don't want to talk about them. Let's talk about you." I said, "Tell me your story." So I sit down. He started telling me his story, and just heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
And he came in my office every single day after that. Every single day he knocked on my door, just searching for information. And they worked there the entire summer. And he went back to school, and he called me, and he said, "Can you help me find a job? Because I don't want to be like the people that I'm growing up around." It just tugs at your heart, because people think that the kids there's a lot of misconception on the kids that we serve, and people see them as bad kids, or kids that don't want to work, or kids that don't have responsibility, and they're not. They're kids that just haven't. Now, not all of them, right? Now, there's some of them may fit that description, but the majority of them are kids that have not had the right situation. It's the support that these individuals need and that they don't get. And when they don't get the support, they run into people that's going to take advantage of them. And then that creates trauma in their life, and it teaches them things that they shouldn't even be knowing about at their age. So Hope House is so crucially important to not only the western suburbs, but to just the state of Minnesota, as are all of our facilities are. Don't believe the myth that it's not happening in your community.
That's right.
Because it is.
I think that's the one thing we're trying to uncover, is that it happens in our community.
It's here.
And it may look a little different.
It looks a little different.
But there are still kids in need that need structure, support, and guidance to help them make better decisions going forward.
For sure.
We've enjoyed this conversation.
I've enjoyed it as well.
It's wonderful to see all the great things that you're doing, and I applaud your efforts for trying to make a difference in the kids you serve.
Very rewarding work.
Great.
And now I think you're going to take us on a video tour
Yes,
of
yes,
the shelter.
for sure, for sure.
Thank you for doing
Yep.
this. We really
No
appreciate
problem.
it.
Thank you for thank you for coming out here and being with us. Welcome to Hope House. This is the house, and this is the entry when you first come in. And if you can follow me this way, I'll kind of take you on a quick tour. This is kind of the kitchen, dining area where the desk here, some of our youth workers sit here and take care of business. Phone calls come in of kids, and over here is the kitchen. All the kids here, they have chores. They help participate in the cooking. And also in the cleaning of the kitchen once all of the dinners and everything are done. Over here is the table where we sit down and we eat together each night. After the kids help prepare the meal, we all come here and we sit down for dinner each night here and make sure that we come together as a house and just talk about, you know, the day that each kid has had and have some positive thoughts. This area in here is the area where they come and watch, you know, television, play games, and just hang out and chill. You know, foosball table, a piano. They listen to music in here. There's a lot of board games that they can play cards. There's a lot of books in here that they can read. They can get on the internet here and you know, search for jobs or things like that, or check in on with their homework at the particular schools that they go to. Good area for them to come and relax, especially after schools or when they just kind of trying to wind down some from their day. We have 3 bedrooms here at Hope House with a total of about 6 beds, and this is one of the bedrooms. This bedroom happened to have 3 beds in it, but you know, just like any other bedroom in any other home, bed and a dresser and you know, a closet where the kids can store some of their belongings and some of their goods. That the kids are responsible for taking care of the room, keeping it clean, making their beds, and making sure that the room is properly cleaned and taken care of. Thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoyed the tour.
One of the things we've learned about doing this series of programs is that families and youth out in our western suburbs don't have to deal with conflicts alone. There are groups and agencies available to help. For a list of resources that we've compiled, you can refer to the list on the screen. You can find out more about Open Hands Foundation on their website, openhandsfoundation.com. For more information about 180 Degrees, their website is 180degrees.org. Programs like this are just part of League's mission. For nearly 100 years, the League has been educating citizens about issues and advocating on our positions at the local, state, and national levels. The League is nonpartisan, so we don't support or oppose political parties or candidates. Our South Tonka League of Women Voters is open to the membership of men and women 16 years of age and older. We cover the cities in southwest Hennepin County. To find out more about our local league, you can go to our website, lwvsouttonka.org. I'd like to thank the Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission for the opportunity to present this program, and thank you for watching.